The Foundation Season 3 finale didn't just end a chapter. It shattered everything we thought we knew about the Empire, destiny, and survival itself. Episode 10 wasn't just a conclusion, it was a warning, a promise, and a prophecy all at once. The finale of Foundation Season 3 is one of those rare television moments that stays with you long after the credits roll. Episode 10 didn't settle for tying up loose ends, it aimed higher. It reshaped the galaxy, redefined characters we thought we understood, and left us with more questions than answers. This was not just storytelling. This was a declaration that the saga is far from over. Right from the opening moments, the episode carried a heavy sense of finality. Every glance, every word spoken, every choice made seemed loaded with the weight of destiny. It wasn't just about heroes and villains anymore. It was about what it means to build, to preserve, and to sacrifice for something that may outlive you. The Foundation itself is no longer just an idea on the edge of the galaxy. By the end of this finale, it has become a living force, something greater than the sum of its people, a concept that can't be erased even by the mighty Empire. But before we dive deeper into what happened, let's talk about the emotions this finale brought to the surface. Fear, tension, sorrow, and awe, they were all there, interwoven like threads in a vast galactic tapestry. The writers wanted us to feel the weight of history pressing down on every scene, and they succeeded. Watching episode 10 felt less like television and more like witnessing a myth being written in real time. The finale also reminded us of the power of silence. In a show filled with starships, explosions, and dramatic speeches, some of the most powerful moments were the quiet ones. A character standing alone, reflecting on the choices they made. The stillness before a storm that would decide the fate of millions. This balance between spectacle and intimacy is what makes Foundation stand apart from other sci-fi epics. It doesn't just show us battles, it makes us think about why those battles are fought in the first place. As an introduction, Episode 10 demanded we pay attention to every detail. From the carefully framed shots of the Empire's crumbling facade to the subtle gestures that hinted at betrayal, the episode built its tension like a slow-burning fuse. And when the explosion came, it didn't just affect one storyline, it rippled across the entire galaxy. But here's the real hook. Episode 10 wasn't just an ending. It was the beginning of something much larger. The clues are there if you look closely, hidden in dialogue, woven into the fate of certain characters, even buried in the symbols and imagery the show has been using since Season 1. What we witnessed wasn't a conclusion at all, but a transition. A handoff from one chapter of history to another, as if the show itself is reminding us that, in the grand story of humanity, nothing ever truly ends. This is why the finale has sparked so much discussion among fans. Some are shocked, some are heartbroken, some are inspired, and that's exactly the point. A finale like this is meant to provoke, to challenge, to leave you restless until the next season arrives. It's more than entertainment. It's a conversation starter, a mirror held up to our own ideas of power, control, and hope. So, as we step into the breakdown of Episode 10, keep this in mind. Every decision in this finale was carefully designed to set the stage for something bigger. Whether it's the crumbling of the Cleon dynasty, the rise of the Foundation's true purpose, or the personal sacrifices of characters we've grown to love, everything matters. Nothing is random. The seeds of Season 4 are already planted here, waiting to bloom. And that's why this episode demands a closer look. We're not just going to recap the story, we're going to unravel it, examine the layers, and understand what it really means. Because in the galaxy of Foundation, the past is never truly past, and the future is always closer than you think. The story of Episode 10 begins with a storm already brewing. The fragile balance between the Empire and the growing power of the Foundation has been stretched to its breaking point, and the finale wastes no time in throwing us straight into the heart of that conflict. Every scene feels like a countdown, every choice carrying the weight of centuries of planning, prophecy, and rebellion. We open on the crumbling image of the Cleon dynasty. The facade of eternal rule, carefully maintained for generations, finally begins to crack in ways even the mighty genetic empire cannot repair. Brother Day, Brother Dawn, and Brother Dusk each face their own reckoning, and the episode shows us that no amount of cloning, manipulation, or technological control can stop history's relentless march forward. For the first time, the Empire looks less like a god and more like a wounded animal lashing out in desperation rather than ruling with confidence. At the same time, we see the Foundation rising not as a single force but as an idea embodied by individuals. Hari Seldon's presence, whether physical or projected, continues to loom large over every decision. Gaal Dornick's choices weigh heavily as she balances her personal fears with the larger destiny of the galaxy. And then there is Salvor Hardin, whose arc in this finale pushes her into the very heart of sacrifice, making her role unforgettable. Through them, the show reminds us that the fate of billions often rests on the courage of the few. One of the most gripping sequences is the confrontation between the Foundation's rebels and the forces of Empire. The visual storytelling captures the clash not only of armies but of philosophies. On one side stands the weight of tradition, a dynasty that has ruled unquestioned for centuries. On the other stands the messy, unpredictable spark of human resistance, driven not by bloodlines but by belief in survival and progress. The battle scenes are less about lasers and explosions, and more about the inevitability of change, about the moment when an empire realizes it can no longer command loyalty through fear alone. But the finale does not rely on action alone. It also gives us quiet, emotional interludes that remind us why we care about these characters. Hari's private conversation with Gaal, filled with foreshadowing, is one such moment. It is not just about strategy, it's about trust, mentorship, and the terrifying question of whether anyone can truly change the path history has written for them. Salvor's interactions, meanwhile, bring a deeply human core to the story, grounding the galaxy-spanning narrative in personal sacrifice and love. And then comes the turning point. Betrayal and revelation collide. Characters we thought we could trust reveal hidden motives, while others step into unexpected heroism. The showrunners clearly designed this finale to pull the rug out from under us, reminding us that in Foundation, no one is safe and nothing is certain. By the time the dust settles, we are left questioning everything we thought we knew about loyalty, destiny, and even identity. The climax is both explosive and intimate. On the surface, we witness the breakdown of Empire's authority symbolized by moments that will be remembered long after the season is over. But beneath that spectacle, the true impact is emotional. It is the sight of characters making impossible choices, embracing sacrifice, and confronting the terrifying reality that the galaxy's future may demand more from them than they ever imagined. By the time the final act arrives, the episode has shifted the balance of power permanently. The Empire is weakened, the Foundation has proven its resilience, and the seeds of a new order have been planted. Yet instead of clarity, we are left with questions. What happens when the cycle of control truly breaks? What comes after an empire that has claimed to be eternal finally falters? Episode 10 ends not with answers but with a challenge. A challenge to the audience to think, to speculate, to wonder about the shape of things to come. The finale forces us to accept that this story is not about individuals alone. It is about the unstoppable tide of history, the clash of ideas, and the hope that even in chaos, something better can be built. This recap is not just about the events we watched unfold. It's about how those events made us feel stunned, heartbroken, inspired, and restless for more. And that is the genius of this finale. It knows that the best stories do not close doors, they open them wider, drawing us deeper into the mystery. The strength of the Foundation Season 3 finale doesn't lie only in its plot twists or grand battles. What gives the finale its true power is the way it treats its characters. Each of them isn't just playing a role in the story, they're embodying ideas, themes, and conflicts that stretch far beyond themselves. Episode 10 isn't just about who wins or loses. It's about what those victories and losses mean in the larger story of humanity. Let's begin with Hari Seldon and Gaal Dornick. Their bond has always been at the heart of the show's tension, and in the finale, it becomes something more profound. Hari represents the weight of inevitability, his psychohistory, His equations, his endless calculations all speak to a future. That seems unchangeable. Gaal, on the other hand, represents doubt, free will, and the fear that perhaps destiny is not as solid as numbers suggest. In Episode 10, their exchanges carry the weight of philosophy. It's no longer just a teacher guiding a student, it's two minds wrestling with the terrifying possibility that they may be both right and wrong at the same time. Through them, the show asks the big question, are we prisoners of history, or do we have the power to bend it? Then there is Salvor, arguably the emotional core of this finale. If Hari and Gaal represent intellect and foresight, Salvor embodies action and sacrifice. In the finale, she is pushed to her limits, forced to make choices that no one else could bear. Her arc is a study of courage, the willingness to put oneself in the fire so others may live. Salvor reminds us that while grand theories and predictions shape the galaxy, it is still individual bravery that turns those predictions into reality. The heartbreak tied to her journey in Episode 10 isn't just about what she loses, but about what she teaches the audience, that survival always comes at a cost. And sometimes that cost is paid in silence, with no reward but the knowledge that others will carry on. Now we turn to the Cleon dynasty, the empire itself. This has always been one of the most fascinating aspects of Foundation, a ruling line built on cloning, designed to last forever, finally coming face to face with its own fragility. In Episode 10, the cracks in their armor are not just political, but existential. We see Brother Day's fury, Brother Dawn's doubt, and Brother Dusk's weariness all colliding in ways that make it impossible to pretend that this dynasty is eternal. Their downfall is more than the collapse of rulers, it's the collapse of an idea, the idea that control can be frozen in time. Thematically, the Empire represents the illusion of permanence, and in this finale, that illusion is shattered. History does not stand still, no matter how hard you try to trap it in the shape of your own face. The broader themes of destiny versus free will are woven into every character's arc. Hari insists that the future can be predicted, Gaal fears the burden of knowing what's ahead, and Salvor acts in the present regardless of what's written. Together, they form a triangle of perspectives that mirror humanity's own struggle with time. Do we surrender to fate, or do we fight to carve our own path? The finale doesn't give us an easy answer, because there isn't one. Instead, it shows us that history is made in the collision between the two. Another powerful theme is the cyclical nature of power. The Empire has ruled for centuries, but its fall feels inevitable, almost scripted by time itself. The Foundation rises not as a flawless savior, but as the next step in that cycle. The finale asks us to consider, are we really watching progress, or are we simply watching another wheel turn, another order replace the old one, destined to repeat the same mistakes? This question lingers long after the credits, haunting the viewer. And finally, the theme of sacrifice echoes through every storyline. From Salvor's personal decisions to the quiet sacrifices of those who fight and die without names, the finale reminds us that history isn't written by destiny alone. It's written by choices, painful, costly, and often invisible. These sacrifices give weight to the larger vision of the Foundation, reminding us that behind every equation, every prediction, every empire and rebellion, there are human lives. Paying the price. In Episode 10, characters don't just act, they symbolize. They are the embodiment of questions bigger than themselves. And that is why the finale resonates so deeply. It doesn't matter if you're drawn to Hari's intellect, Gaal's vulnerability, Salvor's courage, or the Empire's arrogance. Each arc connects to something universal. The struggle between what is written and what is chosen. The pain of letting go of the old world. The hope that maybe, just maybe, something better lies ahead. This is the brilliance of Foundation. It tells us a story about the far future, across galaxies, yet it feels intimately close to our own lives. We may not have empires in psychohistory, but we do have destiny, sacrifice, and the constant battle between control and freedom. That's why Episode 10 feels so timeless, because in the end, it's not just science fiction. It's the story of us. The ending of Foundation Season 3, Episode 10, is not a clean resolution. It is messy, layered, and deliberately unsettling. Instead of closing doors, it blows them wide open, leaving us wandering through hallways of unanswered questions, and that is exactly why it works. A story this grand cannot end neatly. It must end like history itself, and finished, complicated, and heavy with the promise of what comes next. The final scenes revolve around the crumbling empire and the future of the Foundation. We see the Cleon dynasty standing on the edge of collapse. The genetic empire, once unshakable, is now fractured beyond repair. Brother Day's fury and desperation come across not as the strength of a ruler, but the weakness of a man watching his legacy unravel. Brother Dawn's uncertainty and Brother Dusk's resignation confirm that the clone line's promise of eternity was always a lie. The symbolism here is sharp. The empire was never eternal, only stubborn. Its downfall is not a tragedy. It's a release, proof that history cannot be controlled forever. Parallel to this, the Foundation takes its first steps into becoming more than an idea. The sacrifices of Hari, Gaal, and Salvor solidify the Foundation not as a fragile movement, but as the living embodiment of survival and progress. The finale shows us that the Foundation isn't a single person, a city, or even a collection of technologies. It is belief itself. It is the unshakable human instinct to endure, to adapt, and to build something that lasts beyond the individual. This is the true victory of Episode 10, not a battle won, but an idea that refuses to die. The emotional blow of the finale comes through personal sacrifice. Salvor's journey in particular leaves us with a bittersweet ache. Her choices remind us that survival always demands a price, and often it is paid by those brave enough to put themselves last. Her arc closes not with glory, but with a quiet, heartbreaking nobility. This is what makes Foundation stand apart. It does not glorify its heroes. It humanizes them, showing the pain behind the courage, but the ending is not just about loss. It is also about foreshadowing. Hari's conversations with Gaal carry echoes of things yet to come. We see fragments of futures waiting to unfold, and hints of a second Foundation, the shadowy, almost mythical counterpart that fans of Asimov's books know plays a massive role later in the saga. The way Episode 10 weaves in these hints without fully explaining them is deliberate. It keeps the mystery alive, feeding speculation, ensuring that fans will spend the months ahead debating every line, every glance, every symbol, thematically. The ending pushes one message above all: history is alive. You cannot freeze it, cannot clone it, cannot calculate it with perfect certainty. History breathes, shifts, and grows, shaped by both forces larger than us and the quiet bravery of individuals. This is the legacy of the finale. It leaves us not with certainty, but with unease, a reminder that the future is always in motion. Now, let's talk about the review. From a storytelling perspective, this finale succeeds because it balances spectacle with intimacy. The large-scale battles and the downfall of the Empire give the episode its epic scope, but it is the personal moments, Hari's wisdom, Gaal's doubt, Salvor's sacrifice, that give it heart. This duality keeps the show grounded even as it stretches across galaxies. The writing deserves credit for refusing to give us easy answers. In a time where many finales wrap things up neatly, Foundation dares to challenge the audience, leaving us with questions instead of closure. This might frustrate some viewers, but it's also what makes the series special. It respects its audience enough to trust that we will wrestle with uncertainty. Visually, the finale is stunning. The Empire's crumbling halls, the vastness of space, the intimate close-ups during moments of sacrifice, all of it feels carefully crafted to remind us of the scale of this story. The soundtrack, too, carries weight, rising in moments of triumph and falling into haunting silence in moments of loss. This balance between audio and visual design ensures that the finale is not just watched, but felt. Of course, no finale is without flaws. Some may feel the pacing was uneven, with certain subplots rushing toward resolution while others lingered. Others may feel the foreshadowing was too vague, leaving newcomers lost without deeper knowledge of Asimov's universe. But these are minor quibbles compared to the overall achievement. What truly matters is the impact. Episode 10 leaves us restless, questioning, eager. That is the mark of a successful finale, not that it gives us everything, but that it makes us hungry for more. The fall of the Empire, the rise of the Foundation, the sacrifices of individuals, and the whispers of something greater still to come. It all adds up to a finale that doesn't close a story but widens it, and so, as the credits roll, we are left with a single thought. History has turned a page, and the next chapter will be even more dangerous, more heartbreaking, and more awe-inspiring. The Foundation lives, the Empire falters, and the galaxy waits for what comes next.